Welcome back to the show, everybody. This is the upper tier. Get over there to YouTube and show your support to us. Audio versions of the show, of course, Spotify, Google Podcasts, and Amazon Music. Joining me tonight for a kind of a fun episode, as always, my partner on the show is Darren. How are we, Darren?
I'm all right, brother Niall. How are you on this fine Wednesday evening?
Not too bad at all. As anyone who knows the show would know that both myself and yourself could possibly be described as pro wrestling fans, kind of.
Absolutely.
At a push. And anyone who's a pro wrestling fan, and if you're not a pro wrestling fan, why aren't you? Because it's great fun. But anyone who is a pro wrestling fan would know that this week is a very exciting week in the calendar for pro wrestling fans, where we have one of the big four on to send us on the road to WrestleMania, the Royal Rumble. For any of our viewers who don't know what the Royal Rumble is, basically it's a wrestling pay-per-view. 30 men enter the ring, all numbers drawn individually, and you have to get thrown out and eliminated by getting thrown over the top rope and hitting the floor. And last man standing wins a title match at WrestleMania. So what we said we'd do this week on the upper tier is we said we'd have a look at a list of the 30 hardest men potentially in football, and we would do our own Royal Rumble in terms of eliminations down to our final four, which is kind of how this match goes. You get to your final four, and then it's kind of eliminations from there to see who's going to win it. We took the list from the BT Sports list, which has generated a little bit of debate in itself. A couple of players missing off that, the likes of John Terry and Rio Ferdinand, to name but a few, and we could probably come up with a few others as well. But it's a decent list they've put together. Would you agree?
It's not bad. There's a couple of glaringly obvious mistakes, but listen, I think they've done all right. One thing I will tell you though is it's definitely my favorite wrestling night of the year. Always has been, always will be. It's not WrestleMania, but for me, it's even better. I love the format. I love the nostalgia of seeing the boys coming back. And it's my favourite night of the year. So I am very much looking forward to it, I have to tell you.
And it's on a Saturday night this year.
Right.
Which is even better.
It means I don't have to have a sleep hangover on Monday morning when I have to get the kids up.
Absolutely. But yeah, it is definitely one of the most exciting pay-per-views now. I was on a podcast last night with Ian. We were previewing the actual wrestling side of things on the new channel there, Dynamo's Dozen. So head over there and give that a subscribe and check out the videos. But I did mention on that show, one of the glaring things that I find as a pro wrestling fan is the Royal Rumble is the last of the big four that remains untouched and has a history and a legacy that remains similar to this day. Whereas all the others they've gone through changes and they're not quite where they used to be. I used to be very excited about Survivor Series. SummerSlam, as we know, used to be a huge event. Now it's just one of the other pay-per-views, really, when you think about it. But
Survivor Series used to be great, and they killed it. There's not enough 5-on-5, tag team matches and single elimination and stuff like that, and whittling it down. And remember, for years we went through the strange bedfellows where you had two good guys and two bad guys, and they couldn't trust each other, and it all blew up in their face. And this was just gold. And now we
don't even get the matches. Now we get just another pay-per-view
versus the New Day for the 746,000th time.
And we still find a way to appreciate it.
We do, because the New Day and the Usos are right up there, aren't they?
Absolutely golden. Anyway, let's get into this football one. Anyone that hasn't seen the BT list, I'll run down through the 30 names first of all before we get into it. And then we'll discuss how we kind of felt doing it before we get into it. So, of course, it wouldn't be a football's hardest man list if it didn't start off with one Vinnie Jones. So we've Vinnie Jones, Big Duncan Ferguson, El Hadj Diouf, just putting that out there, El Hadj Diouf. That's going to create a bit of conversation. Yap Stam, Patrick Vieira, Stuart Psycho Pierce, Diego Costa, David Batty, Nemanja Vidic, Pepe, Wayne Rooney, Terry Butcher. Who doesn't remember Terry Butcher? That bandage over his head, drenched in blood, would never happen today. Zlatan Ibrahimovic, Julian Dix, Mark Noble.
I'm going to do the other side, Niall.
Go ahead.
We have Scott Brown, Alfredo Morales. We got Big Sam Allardyce, Joey Barton. If it's not in court, I'm not having any of it.
Yeah.
Adebayo Akinfenwa. When we talk about Royal Rumbles, this boy could be a wrestler. Absolutely. He's a monster truck. Mikel Antonio, I think he got lost from another list or something. But again, we'll get to that really shortly.
Yeah.
John Hartson, Gennaro Gattuso, Roy Keane, Joe Jordan, Thomas Repke. We've got the King, Eric Cantona, Chris Sutton, Diego Simeone, and a man I remember fondly from my youth, Mick Harford.
It is a good list, isn't it, really?
Yeah, listen, I think when you look at a list like that, you want to see a couple of oddballs on it. We've got a couple of them. You want to see a few genuine hard guys on it, and then you want to see where can you kind of break it all down and find holes in it and stuff like that. And I think the idea of where we go out from 30 to 1 is a good little idea, and it's actually quite tough to do when you're pitting guys against other guys,
It kind of starts out fairly easy, doesn't it? You can eliminate maybe the first 10. And then in the second tranche of 10, you're thinking who's going to make your final 4. So you're trying to position it around that without doing anyone an injustice, basically. I'll preface this as well by saying in the build-up to WrestleMania as well, what we're going to do is we're going to flip the coin here. And what we're going to do is we're going to do a WrestleMania card, but we're going to do it with footballers, which should be interesting. So it's kind of the flip of this. We're going to use wrestlers and we're going to put them in as footballers in a footballing WrestleMania card. So it should be good fun.
Excellent.
Brock Lesnar playing at the back without a shadow of a doubt in your wrestling football 11. He's going to be a centre half
because he moves like Harry Maguire.
Absolutely. And kills like Vinnie Jones. Right, so let's get into this. Give me your first 10 eliminations. Now, if people know anything about this, it's over the top rope. So these are the guys who are out of here generally pretty quick.
Yeah, so I suppose the first thing I had to square off was the difference between a hard man and a knacker. And I just want to square that off straight away because the first two that are going out, they're not two hard men. They're two sewer rats and two absolute degenerate scumbags. Yeah? Now, with that said, the first man over the top ropes is one Mr. El Hadj Diouf. Good boy and good riddance, you absolute... I'll just pause because I don't want to get the blood pressure up. It's a bit early in the night for that.
El Hadj Diouf would be your Santino Morello elimination. 1 second, boom, straight out, Kane clothesline.
He would be closely followed by another degenerate. Again, certainly not a hard man, but if you're looking for an absolute piece of shit, look no further than Alfredo Morelos.
Alfredo Morelos. Okay. So they're your first two out of the way.
They're my first two out of the way. After that, we're going to go for some genuines, genuinely, I've no idea why Mikel Antonio's on that list. I really have no idea. Is he a hard guy? I don't know. Every time I look at the guy, he's laughing, he's smiling and giggling. Now, maybe he's going out to give a few boys the nut on a Friday evening and I don't know about it. But at the minute, I just think he looks like a great fella and I love the guy. We've spoken about him on the show, numerous times. Mikel Antonio, you are going out, brother. Okay. He's got closely followed by his West Ham teammate.
Yeah.
If you've got a comb over that good, the chances are you're not going to have it in a rumble. Yeah. So
size is potentially everything in this game, isn't it?
Size leaves it out there. So, Mr. Mark Noble, I'm afraid you are going to have to go. They were the first kind of obvious ones to me.
Okay.
After that there was a little bit of whittling, and as you could kind of go through the process, and you could almost make an argument for someone to go ahead of someone else. But the way I went was next on my list, Chris Sutton.
Okay.
Chris wouldn't be what I would describe as a hard man. And he's got, I think he's got a little bit of an ego maybe, Chris, but I don't think he's a tough guy. I don't think he'd last very long in this ring. So, Chris, you have left the building.
Out of here.
You're out of here. From Chris, I'm going to go. I'm going to go to Joey Barton. I kind of think Joey's like, one of those little dogs that makes loads and loads of noise. But at the end of the day, when another dog puts it up to him, they shit all over their own leg. That would be my
misunderstood.
Yeah, I think Joey's probably got more problems than anything, right? I don't think he's necessarily not necessarily a bad guy, but I think Joey needs help, let's say. I don't think the Rumble match is going to help him.
Yeah, absolutely.
Where have I gone next? I have these numbered. Let me just look at my numbers. Okay, so next on the list, I have Yap Stam.
Okay.
Now, Yap for me was an absolutely unbelievable footballer at United, I have to say. I know Sir Alex talked about it, about he was one of the guys who maybe he got wrong and maybe he let him leave the club a bit too early, He seen him play at Lazio and he kind of went, I've made a big boo-boo there. He was a really super footballer. He seemed like a very, very nice guy off the pitch. I absolutely think he was a hard man. But I don't know. I feel like he was a bit wooden or something,
Not in this company.
Yeah, I feel like he's a bit stiff. There's a bit about him that just wouldn't stick with some of the other guys on it. You know what I mean?
Yes. Premier clubs out there right now would give their left arm for a Yap Stam at the back, wouldn't they?
Oh my God.
When you think about the level of defences these days in the Premier League,
Yeah, absolutely. 100%. So after Yap, I paid a visit to a friend of El Hadj Diouf and Alfredo Morelos's. Yeah?
Yeah.
Now, that can only be Mr. Shithousery himself, Pepe.
Okay.
Again, I think he's a wind-up merchant. I think there's a bit of needle there and he's a bit of a nasty piece of shit. I don't necessarily think he'd rough it in the way we assume he would. I think he's very clever in that he knows who he's having a pop off. I think he looks at him and he goes, I can have a bite out of this guy. It'll make myself look good. And I'll get the name for being a hard man. And I'll never have to back it up.
Yeah, he's one of those guys that comes across with me who's very good at starting a row, but rarely front and centre.
Absolutely. And that's where I would see him, yeah?
Yeah, good show.
So the next guy, we're being a little bit harsh on the hammers here. But the next guy on my list is another ex-Hammers man. I absolutely 110% think this guy was an absolute headbanger. But I think he was more psychotic than actually tough. Like this guy, I imagine walked around the training ground loafing walls day in, day out. Because he was a little bit south, not because, anything else. And that's one Thomas Repke.
What a mustache.
He had a few bits going on, didn't he?
He always looked filthy, didn't he?
He had a couple of bits going on, Thomas Repke. He really did.
He always did. Am I right in saying he always started a match looking like he had just finished one?
Yeah, he seemed to get a lot more done in the warm-up than anyone else did.
Yeah, absolutely. Good show.
From there, this is my last of the original 10 that went out.
The first 10, yeah.
Yeah, again, not a big guy. A guy I firmly believe could handle himself. But a guy that kind of had that cheeky wink and grin and stuff like that. And you just thought, you know what? I could tickle this guy and he'd take it. You know what I mean? And that's Big Sam Allardyce.
Big Sam going out that early. Big show.
Yeah, I think Big Sam is going out that early. I have to be honest. I've listened to quite a number of stories about Sam. Two things I will tell you. the lads that played for him absolutely loved him, would run through a brick wall for him. And I think it was that kind of man management that made it possible for Sam to get that kind of performance from the level of player he would have at times, And he did have a very, very short fuse. But I don't know, if it came to the crunch, Sam just looks like he wants to have a point with you and maybe try and slip your missus the finger while you're not looking. And that's, that's kind of it, really, isn't it?
Jesus. Interesting description. Have you seen Big Sam in person?
Yeah.
He's a monster of a man, isn't he? I met him outside Trinity one day, got talking to him.
He's a big unit.
He's a big boy. He's a big unit, but he's big and tall. He's a big guy, Interesting 10 to start with. A couple of interesting names went out there. I'm not a million miles away from you, so I'll give you my 10. I think I matched you, I think, for 8 of them. So that's an interesting one. Not too bad.
That's good, Niall. And we didn't compare notes before we started, which was really good.
Yeah, similar thinking here. I think once we start going down the list, then the thinking might change slightly. But the first 10 is kind of, as I said to you, it's the easier of the picks. So, of course, I started with El Hadj Diouf as well, out of here, Santino Marella style, not even getting a second in the ring. I went second, Mikel Antonio, third, Mark Noble, fourth, Pepe, fifth, I put Mick Harford in, so you wouldn't have agreed with that. 6, I had Thomas Repke. 7, I had Chris Sutton. 8, I had Alfredo Morelos. 9, I had Jaap Stam. And at 10, I had David Batty.
Okay, pretty good. That is good.
I don't often pick players as being hard if their forte is a tackle from behind, because I don't regard a man who hits you from behind as being a hard man. So that was kind of my thinking going through this as well. So that was my 10, my first 10 eliminations.
And you'll be, we won't get too much into it, but the two that you didn't have, they're quite promising in my next batch of them.
Likewise.
Yeah.
Right, come on, give us your next 10 then.
Right, so again, it's starting to get a little more difficult now, and I firmly believe you could make a case for most of these lads, but the next one out for me was David Batty. Yeah, I always liked Batty as a player, I have to say, but I kind of, he was ripping jerseys and he was, tapping ankles, and he was dirty, but he wasn't necessarily like tough as nails, and I kind of feel like you're right on the, if you're 2-footing from behind, that's all you've got in the rucksack. Like, you leave your rucksack at the side there, will you, and just use something else. I'm gonna go. The next guy I put out, I suppose age would have a little bit to do with this, and seeing, the maybe getting the amount of time that I needed to watch this guy. The next one out for me is Joe Jordan.
Okay.
But again, like, I know Joe's a hard man, but I didn't necessarily see as much of it. And I also think that Joe was around in an era when there was a lot of hard men. So it kind of balanced itself out for me. I didn't see him as any more hard than some of the rest of the guys, Right. I know this is a moment that's going to upset a few people. Ian, close your ears now, pal. Yeah. Scott Brown. Scott Brown is my next in line. I like Scott Brown. Really, really do. I'm just looking at the list. I'm like, who would I have here ahead of Brown? And I'd have about 15 or 16 if I'm honest. Like, what I mean?
Really?
Yeah.
Good show.
Yeah, I think so. another, another guy size is on his side, but that smile and that laugh, they don't fill you with fear, do they?
So maybe concern, but not fear.
But not fear. That can only be our boy Adebayo Akinfenwa, the man who, if I'm right, and I know I'm right if I'm mentioning it, did actually have a trial once for the WWE.
Okay, interesting.
Did you know that?
No, I didn't. I wasn't aware of that.
He was at one of their, like a performance day.
Yeah.
He was at one then. And it's something he says he's seriously thinking about for when he hangs the boots up, because he's a massive fan. And obviously his body shape and stuff like that would lend itself to the ring. So Adebayo, you've gone out now, but you never know. Maybe one day we'll actually see it in a Royal Rumble.
Potentially, yeah. Adama Traore would make a brilliant wrestler, wouldn't he?
Wouldn't he?
Yeah.
And he'd be, you know who he'd go in with? He could go in as like the bodyguard for like a little like a Seth Rollins or something, a little heel, a little small heel that needed a bit of muscle with him.
I was thinking of a tag team partner with Shelton Benjamin. Be quality. Yeah, be quality.
Yeah.
Bit of power and glory there, but
bit of herk and jerk.
That's it. Yeah.
Next on my list, Wayne Rooney.
There you go. You balanced your argument there, then, didn't you? That's not too bad. You put your boy in there.
Do I think he's tough? Absolutely. I know he comes from a boxing background and stuff like that, and he's from the tough streets of Toxteth and stuff like that. But I don't know. I don't think he wouldn't put the shits up me. I have to say now, not as much as some of the other boys would. And one of the boys a little later in the list who was quite prominent on my list, I have a lovely story about to finish off, and it may even kill some of our buzz on this one, but I'll keep that for the end.
Yeah, absolutely.
Next in line, these were starting to really get tough, because we're down to, what have we got? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 13, 14. We're 15. We're 15 in.
Okay.
Mick Harford. Mick, I would have seen him just towards the end of his career, at Wimbledon and stuff like that. Part of that crazy gang with Joe Kinnear and stuff like that, and obviously went on to be involved in the backroom team and everything. Mick was a hard man, liked to throw an elbow and throw a few shapes and stuff like that. But but again, when I look at the list, I just think, it's, you're splitting hairs on a number of these lads,
Yeah.
Controversial moment. Patrick Vieira.
Ooh. Yeah.
I like the guy. I think on the pitch he was phenomenal. I don't necessarily think when we look at that tunnel at Highbury, and we had Keane and we had Vieira, who would your money have been on?
Oh, definitely Kane. Definitely Kane. I think Patrick Vieira falls into that same mold I spoke about David Batty. A real good tackle from behind, but not necessarily front on.
Yeah, I kind of think, I was looking at the two dogs in that fight and I was going, you know what? I'm not a huge Roy Keane fan, but I think Roy will do this boy all ends up, if I'm honest. And he won't go hiding about it either,
No.
He won't do anything sly, or he won't, So yeah, I've gone with Vieira now. That might be a surprise for some people, especially Arsenal fans who worship the man, and Palace fans who are probably quite enamoured with him at the minute because he's doing a great job there, isn't he?
Yeah. Not as a hard man though.
No,
not in a football sense.
Not as a hard man. Yeah, so again, another hard man, but I don't know. I look at the list and I just think there's tougher on it, you know. I'm gonna go John Hartson.
That's a huge call.
Yeah, I'm gonna go John Hartson, and like I know Big John, like watched him at Luton before he headed off to West Ham and stuff like that. And remember, he brought himself and Paul Kitson in. They basically kept him in the Premier League that year with the goals and stuff like that. But yeah, I've seen him. He definitely has a temper, John. You know, A.L. Berkovic will sign up for that one. Yeah, he's definitely got a temper.
He's well capable of hulking up, all right.
He absolutely is. But I don't know, when there's a guy on the ground and you're kicking him in the head, is there a touch of the bully boy or the weak side about you where you're going, I see a little weakness here, I'm going to jump all over this? I'd prefer to see them let the guy get up off the ground and then drop him again. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, no, I can see where you're coming from, but I suppose the initial kick on a guy like A.L. Berkovic meant it was lights out.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah, absolutely. I happen to know for sure that this will go against you. Diego Costa.
No.
No?
No. I would accept Diego Costa as a hard man, without a shadow of a doubt. And another man who could hulk up, who had a proper streak in him, all right. But yeah, I can understand. I'll preface that by saying I have him down my list a little more, but not necessarily in the final cut. But you'll have to remain viewing to see. That rounds out your 20, does it?
It doesn't. I've one more.
Oh, you have one more.
I think I've got one more. 3. I do have one more.
Yeah.
Okay. How's me counting? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. I've one more. Okay.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. I kind of, do I have him in my top 10 or don't I? And I really, really struggled with this one. And if I tell you why I had him where I had him, he stitched up a mate of mine, and I wasn't happy with it.
Okay. Yeah.
But you know how big of a David Beckham fan I was.
Yeah.
And Diego Simeone stitched him right up at that World Cup, and I wasn't a happy camper. And just on the basis of that, I thought, you know what, Diego, you can go out with the also rants.
You're out of here.
Good luck, Diego. But what I will say is, definitely a hard man. And I've heard a couple of stories from that Atletico Madrid changing room. And by all assumptions, the hairdryer and more goes on in that changing room.
Oh, I'd say so. And a lot more, I'd say.
Yeah.
Speaking of David Beckham, I'm sure boots fly in that dressing room at times. I'm thinking Kieran Trippier sitting in the corner going, Newcastle want me? I'm out of here.
I'll pay Ryanair for my own flights.
Sometimes you look at these and you go, how did he even arrive there? Like, he's the furthest thing away from a Diego Simeone player, like, you know. But yeah, interesting. Yeah, no, that's a great 20. I'm not far off yet. There's a couple of changes in this one. So this is where our episode is going to get very interesting. So I started out number 11. And again, I don't know whether this was my head or my heart. I went with Julian Dix. The reason I went with Julian Dix is because he was as soon as signing, and I'm not having any of that. You're out of here.
Now, our Graham is a friend of mine, so you don't be going in on Graham like that, yeah?
Listen, we all have our crosses to bear, and I ain't carrying that one. Number 12. You won't be happy with this one at all. Nemanja Vidic. I have in at number 12.
That's fairly high up the list.
It is high up the list. But having said that now, I have your boy Wayne Rooney further down the list, so I can't be accused of being the unbiased opinion here.
Would you have had Rooney against Vidic in a scrap?
I think I would have took Rooney, yeah.
Would you really?
I would, yeah, because I think what happened, I could see Rooney going in for the spear to get him on the ground, and I think once he has him on the ground, Rooney's winning that. Because Rooney has that kind of little sort of American, that amateur wrestling stocky little build. He was as square as he was tall.
Square shoulders.
Yeah, but he was as wide as he was tall. Whereas Vidic always looked to me, he wasn't always that naturally sort of like, he wasn't always that comfortable sort of player, if you know what I mean, a la Torres, torturing him a little bit. And I think if he's a little bit weak that way at all, I think a Rooney taking you down in the spear, get you down, I think you'd have problems. So, but look, these are all hard men. There's no doubt about it.
Yes,
it's just your levels.
Yeah.
Next up, I had Joe Jordan. And Greg from On the Slab and Retrotainment reminded me of Gattuso's headbutt on Joe Jordan back in the day.
Yes.
Interesting one that I had forgotten about till Greg refreshed my memory. But I have Joe Jordan in there. Next up at 14, a man you had well up your list, Joey Barton. I don't think he's as weak as you think, but I still think he was weak enough not to make the cut there. Next up at 15, I Terry Butcher. I have him at 15, so Terry makes the halfway point. Because I don't know if you're recognized as a hard man because you're drenched in blood.
I don't know. I'd say it's a pretty good bleeding yardstick.
I don't know. I think hard men don't get broke up. I think hard men do the breaking up. So let's see. But yeah, I have him in there anyway. And I know people are going to come at me on that. And I know, as we said, he was a hard man. Next, I agreed with you, Patrick Vieira. I think there's only one winner in that tunnel if it kicks off.
Yeah.
And after Patrick Vieira, I had Wayne Rooney.
Okay.
At 18, this is one that you're not going to agree with either. This is the Omos of this match because of height. Zlatan Ibrahimovic, I put in there. I don't know. With him as well, I think there was a kind of a nasty streak to him as well. But I think there's guys on this list, as you said, I would fancy against him. Even with all his black belts.
Yeah, see, I think he's a legitimate hard man with the black belts. Like I think we're talking about some of these guys like they, like we've seen him do it already. I think Zlatan with a black belt has done it to a certain degree.
I don't know. I see those black belts in Cobra Kai and they get smashed up, so I'm not too sure. I'm not convinced. Well, we shall see. I know you'll have him further down the list. There's no doubt about it. Next up, I had Big Sam Allardyce, so I agreed with you on that one there. And I rounded out 20 with 80. Same as yourself. I had him in there as well.
With who?
80 Akafenwa.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so he's in there as well. So it comes down to the final 10. So here you have to give me 6, and then our 4 go into the elimination round, if you like.
Yeah.
So give me 3, and I'll give you 3, and we'll work down through the 6. Yeah.
Right. Okay.
Right. So at 21, who's going out at 21 after putting in a good night's work?
Gennaro Gattuso.
Okay.
Hard man. Very hard man, but I look at the guys on the list and I just go, I fancy them all more than him.
Size again.
Size is a big one. Pardon the
size,
big one, and I just think there's a little too much on little Gennaro's shoulders to take.
He's the Jamie Noble of this one, isn't he?
Yeah, he is. Yeah, he's taking a couple of power bombs, isn't he?
Absolutely.
Next it's Julian Dix.
Okay.
I do like Julian, I have to say. What a man for a penalty, by the way. Took some serious penalties. Never put the ball anywhere other than down the middle at like the absolute rocket speed that he could hit at. Badoom. Keeper knew where it was going. Tried to stay on his feet. Still wasn't stopping it. Love it. Absolutely love it. So Julian goes out there then, yeah?
Yeah.
And then to round out these three, I have Nemanja Vidic.
Okay. So, I mean, we weren't poles apart.
We're not poles apart. Well, listen.
So what was your thinking on putting Vidic out at this point?
Again, I just look at what I have in front of him and I'm like, I think at this point your race is ran. You know, I can't look at it any other way. Like, you know what I mean? It's just the way I have it.
Okay. Interesting. So that's your three.
Yeah.
I'll give you my three from 21 to 23 coming up in terms of eliminations. At 21, the man with the most famous drop kick in the Premier League, Eric Cantona. Okay. At 21. Again, you could make a case to have him further down the list. There's absolutely no doubt about it. At 22, the psycho himself, Stuart Pearce. And at 23, Gattuso. I agreed with you on that one. Again, I was thinking of size outweighs little hard men. So that was my three: Eric Cantona, Stuart Pearce, and Gennaro Gattuso.
Okay, so you want 3 more?
Yeah, give me your next three because we're getting into the business end of this Royal Rumble now. We're 40 minutes in, we are here now. Gorilla Monsoon and Jesse Ventura are perplectic at this stage.
Yeah. Now I'm gonna go for Terry Butcher.
Okay.
You know, tough man, really hard man. This could have been this position or the next one could have swapped, but this is the level where I have him. This is probably just outside the final four where he is, you know, and this is, I feel like this is a good spot for him to go out at. After Terry, I have a man, that you've already named on your list, and it's now at the point where he's on my list. When the seagulls follow the trawler, it is because they know sardines will be thrown over the fucking top rope, pal. You're out.
You're out of here.
So we'll drink our drink to Eric the King. But unfortunately, Eric, it won't be your night this time.
You ain't king of the ring this night, baby.
You aren't going to be. And my fifth out, yeah? My fifth out is one psycho Stuart Pearce.
Okay. Interesting.
So I'm gonna surmise that we've got 3 guys in our final 4 that are the same.
I don't think we've 3. I'd say we have 2.
We've definitely got 2, but I thought we'd 3 now, I have to be honest. But anyway. Go on.
So my final 3 eliminations and getting down to the final 4. At 24, a man who was out of here and properly out of here from Cork, you'll be delighted to hear. Roy Keane, out of here, gone. You walked out on the country, so you ain't that hard. The man who didn't want to play football on tarmac, how hard were you? Putting it out there. At 25, which would be a shock to our Chelsea viewers, Diego Costa, out of here at 25.
I think you had him deep, man. That deep.
I don't know. I think when he lost the head on the pitch, he kind of put a bit of fear in me as well. The fear with him is that once he starts, he wouldn't stop. He's the guy, if he's number 5 in the ring, he puts the other 4 out over the top rope and he's sitting on the turnbuckle like Stone Cold waiting. He just has that kind of nasty little streak to him. And at 26, a man who I'm really fond of, John Hartson. Goes out at 26. I think he's tough as nails. I get your point about kicking a man when he's down, but any man who beats cancer to me is tough.
He is absolutely one tough son of a bitch. Just thought that was a little bit cowardly. Just a little bit. Especially when, had the bloke has stood up, he'd still have only been to your fucking waistband.
Yeah.
That's it's just a little bit.
I would say on that day he was antagonised as well, in fairness to Mr. John Hart.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. We might find out shortly.
So, my friend, we're down to the final four. And anyone who's been following the episode will have a fair idea who our final fours are. This is tough stuff, isn't it? This is main event on the zone and stuff like that, isn't it?
This is big in the game here now.
Give me your four.
So my four are Vinnie Jones, Duncan Ferguson, Zlatan, and Roy Keane.
Right, so I'm thinking in those four, the pairings is Jones and Keane are going to go at it, and Zlatan will go at it with Dunk, just to measure out the heights.
Right. Well, maybe.
Right. Well, my final four, of course, were Vinnie Jones and Duncan Ferguson.
Mm-hmm.
But I had Diego Simeone in there, and I had Scott Brown. They're my final four. So there you go. So who takes it out of those four?
Well, the next one out on my list, again, just because we're starting to get to the business end of proceedings, and when she tells you size doesn't matter, she's lying. It does. So that little man, who I don't like very much, from County Cork, which I do like very much, great place, holiday there all the time. What a beautiful spot, fabulous people. It's a shame your cult hero is a little gremlin. Roy, take your little leprechaun bag and get out of our ring. You're fired.
Man, I'm surprised you had him so far up the list. In the last few episodes now, for a guy who you're not really endeared to, you're speaking very fondly of.
Oh no, I told you, it's respect. But there's and it pains me to do it actually. But I make these decisions with my head and not my heart. That's the problem.
Okay.
I don't allow myself to get my personal feelings in the way. Because if I did, Roy'd have been out just after Moreles and Bleeding Hadj the Uff.
Interesting. Right. Keep me going here now. Let's go.
There's three left.
Yeah.
And I think at this stage, Vinny and Dunk have a look at the giant Zlatan and go, we need to get rid of this guy. We're going to tag team this guy, and then it's going to be left to me and you. Yeah?
Yeah.
So I think Vinny and Dunk cross over their hands and clothesline him over the top rope, and he lands on his feet, fixes his hair, winks at the timekeeper, and walks to the back to collect a load of knickers.
He doesn't hang on to the ropes and keep the feet off the floor and get back in with one of those loops.
The ropes would have to be 15 feet up in the air.
This is your dual black belt. What are you doing?
I think the boys just have a little bit much about them.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
So that would leave me with Vinny and Big Dunk in last. Do you want to give me two?
I can give you two. Yeah, I went in a similar vein.
Okay.
I don't know. I think what happened was Scott Brown in the corner laying a few punches into Diego Simeone, and then goes off and does that kind of strut that he does. And while he's doing that strut, Big Dunk grabs him by the arse cheeks and the hair, straight over the top rope and gone. No room for bragging to the crowd and this and playing up to the crowd. So Scott Brown goes out. Duncan then turns to Diego Simeone and goes, we need to get Vinny out of here. Have you seen those movies and all? You have to be very careful here and all. So they take out Vinnie Jones, and Vinnie Jones goes out.
What?
So my final two was Duncan Ferguson and Diego Simeone.
Duncan Disorderly and Diego Simeone.
Yeah.
Jesus, you really shat the bed on Simeone, didn't you?
It did.
You've got him in there. Jeez, he's in deep there, man. I got to tell you, though, he's a handsome devil, Simeone, isn't he?
You think?
Never seen him in the gear on the sideline with the suit on, you just think,
Yeah.
I wouldn't even feel that bad if he was banging me wife.
I don't know about that. He has a face like a used bag of trowels.
Right, so, do you want to know who goes out next, or do you want the story?
You can give me the story, but you'll have to give me the winner as well, because whoever goes out next, that's your winner then, isn't it, after?
Yes,
it's more of the same.
So here's the problem, right? When I was a little ankle biter, I know we mentioned a story similar to this a few weeks ago, but I was playing football for a team, and we went away to play a couple of games against a team in Liverpool one weekend, little competition, you know?
Yeah.
It was in about 1994, so I'd have been 10. And we were staying in a beautiful hotel. It was called the Moat House. And at that stage, it was one of the big hotels in Liverpool. And a lot of the footballers used to frequent here after the football matches. Now, on the day in question, we met quite a few footballers. We met Ian Rush, who I told you got a little bit rowdy and a bit lippy with a bar girl. And we met a Danish substitute goalkeeper by the name of Michael Stensgaard. Yeah.
Nice. Yeah.
And one of the other guys we met was Big Dunk, Duncan Disorderly. And at this stage, Big Dunk was actually on a driving ban. He'd just been done for something, speeding or drinking or something. And he wasn't allowed to drive. So his agent actually kind of was around with him having a few beers in the Moat House that night. So we met Dunk and we asked Dunk for a few pictures, and of course he obliged. And then we asked for an autograph and he obliged. Then Dunk asked us, how many is there, lads? And he says, 16 or 18 of us. And Dunk said, round up the boys and I'll meet you in the car park. Right, okay, Dunk. Dunk proceeded to make his agent give us trips around the car park in his very expensive Porsche.
Very nice.
Right? And after he'd done that, Dunk brought us out the front door of this beautiful hotel, and he brought us 2 doors down to the left to McDonald's and bought nearly 20 kids from Dublin Happy Meals and ice creams. Dunk, what a guy. So Dunk has to be my winner.
Very good. Great story.
Dunk just got Vinny at the end, and he went, Vinny, I'm doing it for the Waynes. And he dumped Vinny out on his head.
Now, when you started the process of this, was Dunk the winner right from the beginning? Was he taken off the list and parked, or did you have to work towards that?
No, he'd have always been in the top 4 for me.
He'd be always in the top 4.
Yeah.
Well, I've a similar result. Diego starts bragging to the crowd, and then Dunk sends him flying out of the ring as well. And Duncan Ferguson is the winner for me as well.
Well, wouldn't you know it, huh?
There you go.
We did all right there, didn't we?
And that's a Liverpool man.
That's a Liverpool man.
Yeah.
Yeah, El Dunk. Great lad he was. Looked after us.
So we nearly arrived. We arrived at the same winner. And
paid for the McDonald's with a check.
Yeah.
Huh?
Wonder did it cash. So how much would 20 meals for 20 kids at this stage would have been then? What are you talking about then? Probably what, 120 quid? So you probably stuck that in the Porsche and juice.
No, not even that. I'd say you were talking, he got us all a Happy Meal, and he got us all one of them ice cream sundaes.
So a ton?
80 bills maximum.
Okay.
And he wrote the boys a check.
So because I didn't get the meal and the ice cream that day, I'm only putting him in there because I reckon he was the hardest on the list. You're putting him in there because he bought you McDonald's.
And gave us a little trip around this, this car park in his Porsche.
Yeah.
Little red with the black soft top and everything. Remember, like the old ones?
Yeah. The old 911 with the spoiler that comes up when you're mounting.
Beautiful with the wing and all. Beautiful.
Yeah,
and your man putting 2 and 3 of us in the front seat of this Porsche to do a little whip around the car park for us.
Yeah, after having a few shandies.
Unbelievable.
What was the reg? Was it Dunk 1?
I couldn't tell you. And Big Dunk just standing there having the crack with his life, you know.
Yeah.
Now, this was a guy at this stage who'd come down from Edinburgh and who was, or from Glasgow, and had was awaiting, you know, a visit to Her Majesty. Because he was about to go to jail, don't forget. So maybe he was doing
He wasn't getting knighted.
Maybe he was doing it for the image, but it worked either way, Dunk. I'm a fan.
Absolutely. Well, listen, we asked the boys who occasionally appear on the show to send us in their final fours and their winners. So we got them in from Ted and Greg from Retrotainment. Head over to their channel there on YouTube, their new channel, doing really, really well, and support it. And we also got Ian to send in from Dynamo's Dozen, of course, a Chelsea boy Ian. He sent in his picks as well. So we'll start with Ted. Ted's final.
Ian Diego Costa in the final four, there's going to be trouble.
I'm not even going to comment till I get there. But listen, there's a trend here. We're talking 2 Man United fans and a Chelsea fan. So there is a trend, and we have to take that into account. So Ted, who we know, sometimes is very interesting in his picks in football, but was potentially in the top 6 this season. But he picked out his 4. His 4 were Noble in the final 4, Noble in the final 4, Gattuso, Akifenwa, and Vidic. That's what his final 4 were. And out of his final 4, who would you say took the win?
Had to have been Vidic, no one Ted.
Spot on, 100%. So out of that whole list of 30, Britain's hardest was Vidic. There you go, in this Royal Rumble. Greg had some interesting picks. He did mention the headbutt on Joe Jordan, so I'm not sure whether he wanted to relive that moment again. But Greg's final 4 was Zlatan, Joe Jordan, Big Dunk, and Gattuso. So who did Greg?
Had 2 of the boys I had.
Yeah. So who did Greg go with as the winner?
I reckon Greg went for Zlatan, you know.
He did. Went over the top ropes, didn't touch the floor, spun back up and in over the ropes and took the win. Good man, Greg.
Good stabs in the dark, weren't he?
Yeah, absolutely. We should mention as well, Greg does be on the slab as well out there on the channel. Give that support. The horror channel out there as well. So make sure you go over and give a support. Let's get on to Ian's. Ian's final 4. Zlatan, Big Dunk, Diego Costa, and John Hartson. Now, we know that Ian is also a Celtic boy, so John Hartson was going to be in there as well, wasn't it? So I wonder how many heartstrings he was pulling on there. I'm assuming with Ian, it came down to Diego Costa and John Hartson. Seeing as I know Ian being a Chelsea boy and a big Celtic boy. That's who I assume would be his final 2 out of those 4. So,
well, you know the winner, obviously, don't you?
Well, who are you going for as the winner?
Oh, John Hartson.
No, Diego Costa.
Stop, will you?
Diego Costa's Ian's winner of the Football Royal Rumble. That was his pick. Now, before I go anywhere, Mark couldn't join us tonight. I want to pull up Mark's.
Before we go anywhere, let's not mention Ian may or may not have been involved in that spray painting incident outside the Goodison Park this evening, which said Pereira out, Lampard in. That's how hard in the game Ian is with Chelsea.
Hang on now. Wait till I say. I want to find. Okay. What did Mark?
The throw was a curveball here.
Yeah, it's an interesting one. Yeah, it's an interesting one, right? Mark went with Big Dunk, Vinnie Jones, Joe Jordan, and Pepe. And his reasoning for keeping Pepe in there was he said he was like Eddie Guerrero. He liked to lie, cheat, and steal. And that's an interesting description there. And he went for his winner as Big Dunk as well. So Mark agreed with us. So there's a trend here. Big Dunk seems to be the man at the moment.
Go on, Dunk. Yeah.
And he said on a side note, he could have also went for his close calls to the big four, which were nowhere near ours. Yap Stam, Big Sam, and Terry Butcher. So there you go. So those were Mark's. I thought I'd shove him in there. He couldn't make it tonight, obviously. So shout out to Mark there. Yeah, so interesting one. So he went with Big Dunk, but he had Pepe in there to do the Eddie Guerrero, the light sheen and steel. What's thoughts on that?
Yeah, I like that idea.
Good description, isn't it? It's a good description. Yeah.
You could see him with a little bit of a little stringy hair coming down over his thing and giving it the old hair flick.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There wouldn't be much stringy hair coming out of Pepe. Well, there you go. That's our football Royal Rumble as brought to you from the BT Sport list. Give me
your Royal Rumble winner on Saturday night.
Brock Lesnar.
That's who you're going for?
Brock drops the belt to Bobby, enters into the Rumble, and they fix that path to WrestleMania. Brock versus Reigns that got messed up because of COVID at day one. I think they're going to have to correct that. I think the Rollins match is a crowbar throwaway.
And who does Lashley end up with in Mania?
Don't know. They'll probably crowbar something else.
Okay.
Don't know. That's my thinking at the moment. That's what I went for. You can check it out. I think it's going up tomorrow on Ian's channel, either tomorrow or Friday. You'll see our preview that we did in it. Some interesting betting as well. Some interesting odds. There you go. Yeah.
Okay. That's not who I think will win.
So who do you think's going to win?
I think this Saturday night is going to be phenomenal.
AJ Styles.
I think AJ is going to walk out of there on Saturday night with a title shot at Mania.
I think that's a stretch. Just the guy who's been propping up NXT.
I know. I think he's been doing,
phenomenal stuff.
A bit for his profile, I think AJ is very clever.
You're probably due a title shot at Mania if you've been betting, or if you've been nursing almost.
That's 18 months, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think they freed him up just in time. They've kept him out of the main event picture so that it will be somewhat of a shock when he does win it. He's obviously been on NXT with Grayson Waller and stuff like that. I think this is AJ's time to shine. And I think we could end up with babyface AJ Styles versus Roman Reigns at WrestleMania.
Interesting. And we know Ronda Rousey in terms of the women's one, so that's nearly common knowledge at this stage by the looks of things. Who's your show for the Forbidden Door then? Who's this huge star returning potentially or coming through this Forbidden Door? Who are you predicting for that?
I genuinely think I don't think it'll happen. But if it did happen, I think it's Cody.
Cody?
Yes.
Jeez. That's an interesting one.
I think because, there were times when Cody was over, Cody was part of the legacy and stuff like that. And he was a tag champ. He was an intercontinental champ and stuff like that. And
he was dashing.
Cody's still in good nick. He still goes, I think there's a lot of things that would say Cody would be the best fit for this. I think if you're bringing a Jericho with the man boobs in, that is going to look shocking.
Not if they're sitting in behind an AEW t-shirt.
Yeah, I don't see it.
No.
I have to say, I personally don't think we'll see it either way. But I think there's something to say if if it was going to happen, it would have to be someone who WWE and could both respect and both entrust to do the job that they were supposed to do, that there wasn't going to be any backhanders here or there, you know what I mean? And I think obviously with Dusty's legacy and stuff like that, with Vince and with WWE and obviously with NXT, and they've still got the Dusty Rhodes Classic and all that going on at the minute, I think it would lend itself to being Cody,
Okay. I just wonder, would Cody be big enough? I mean, they're talking about someone kicking this door clean off the hinges. Is Cody big enough for that? Would Cody go back as well after all that stuff with the family name and the Rhodes thing and all that happened? And I know never say never, but is his wound cut deeper than most?
No, I don't know. I think Cody's a guy who could do it for business purposes.
Yeah.
I don't think Cody's a hothead, so to speak. I think he could be, he could be clever and he could go, this could be one of the biggest things that's ever happened in pro wrestling. And for me to be part of that could go a long way to cementing my legacy, so to speak. And maybe, a couple of years down the road, if Cody ever wanted to have a little sabbatical and a little title run, Vince might go, you know what, I'll facilitate you seeing what you did, and that type of thing.
You don't think there's a chance we might see a classic favourite of ours? You don't think the tribal chief might be confronted by the high chief, the current high chief in Hollywood? No? You don't think there's any chance of that happening? Because they are marketing this like this is going to be monumental.
Yeah, and
like I'm a Cody Rhodes fan, but I don't know how big the pop for that out of me would be Saturday night.
I'm looking at it from a forbidden door we talk about, from a wrestling point of view, not necessarily from an outside type of view. You know what I mean? Listen, this has been on the table with The Rock for the last 24 months, but it was pied off a couple of times because of COVID and stuff like that, basically. I've heard that there was issues with the timetable now and with Rock's schedule, but we also heard the year that Ronda popped out at the Rumble that she was in Colombia, videoing something or recording something, and all of a sudden she was there, and so
we only need to borrow him for an hour. Then he can do it. Then he can do what he wants to Mania.
That's it. Yeah, well, you're gonna need to build it a little bit more than that, aren't you?
Yeah, absolutely.
You're gonna need a couple of Monday nights.
Yeah, you'll have to check out our episode, myself and Ian, that we did, because I put a few layers of dynamic into the Royal Rumble on things that may or may not happen. And I also did a little kind of, not a beat the bookie, but we went through some of the pricing and stuff like that's very interesting. The one thing I did put out there, Michelle McCool entering the Women's Royal Rumble. We know that Undertaker's going to be on hand there that night. The talk is he may be there because he might be recording stuff in relation to the 2K game that's coming out. Not too sure. But if the dead man is backstage, does the bike get rolled out again? And does wrestling's version of Sons of Anarchy hit the ring? Who knows?
We shall see.
Yeah, it should be interesting. Well, listen, pleasure having you on for the show. I hope our viewers enjoyed it. We're going to be doing more fun shows like this. We have a couple of really good fun Champions League ones coming up over the next few weeks as we head back into the Champions League in February. So they should be some interesting ones. We'll keep you posted on them. Let us know your picks. Who would have won your football Royal Rumble? And also let us know on the 30-man list, who's the players you think didn't make the list? Who have we missed out on? No doubt there's a couple of hard guys out there that would be disappointed they didn't make the list. We did have some honourable mentions, obviously John Terry, Rio Ferdinand. Strange Rio wasn't on it. He's a BT guy as well.
No, why would Rio be on it? He's an absolute bag of fizz. Jesus Christ.
How are you a Man United fan?
If you're going to put Rio on it, where's Tony Adams?
True. Martin Keown.
Nigel Winterburn. Steve Bold. Lee Dixon. David Seaman. The Arsenal back line at one stage was...
Have you moved your allegiance to London all of a sudden? What's going on with you here?
Again, I've got to run with the title they're giving me. They're like football's hardest men. If Rio Ferdinand is in football's hardest men, You know, I'll eat me jocks with bleeding ketchup next week live on the match. Fucking hell.
Sauce those babies up, baby. Well, listen, folks, until next week, it's been an absolute pleasure. Don't forget to join us either Thursday or Friday. We'll be dropping the latest transfer show with myself and Darren, going through all the latest transfers as we tick along. And I suppose on Monday, we don't have a Monday mashup, but we will be doing a countdown to deadline day, won't we? Because deadline day is Monday, ain't it?
We will probably be live on Monday, Niall.
Yeah, we will be live on Monday on YouTube, I'd imagine.
Suited and booted.
Absolutely. So that should be an interesting show. The last one created a little bit of controversy, no doubt about it. But what are you expecting? A lot of transfers to go through between now and then? Has it waned off a little bit? Are people backing off a bit?
I think we'll see at least 10 good ones before then.
That'd be nice.
Decent ones. Well, there's the boy today at Newcastle, you know. He came from nowhere and all of a sudden it's job done. You know, I think if Tottenham get the two boys in, Adama and the boy Diaz, there's two more. I think Newcastle will probably get another pair. I think United might get one. Because I think we'll see Van de Beek and Lingard step out. You know,
that's another two.
Yeah, so I think we'll get 10 decent ones.
Yeah, it means to be a busy 4 or 5 days.
Heat in there.
That's it. Until next time, folks, this has been the Upper Tier, your football Royal Rumble with the 30 hardest men in football. Till next time, we'll talk to you real soon.